After my husband David's funeral, I found a rusted key hidden in his old toolbox with a handwritten note. "Sarah, promise me you'll never go to the farmhouse. Some places should stay buried." But when my sister Monica showed up at my door 3 days later with a sealed letter, she claimed David had left for me, and tears streaming down her face as she whispered, "Sarah, there's something about David you need to know." I knew that promise was about to be broken. My name is Sarah Chen, and what I discovered at that forbidden farmhouse didn't just shatter my world, it froze my blood, because the man I'd loved for 15 years hadn't been protecting a secret affair. He'd been protecting me from something far more terrifying. And the person I trusted most had been orchestrating my destruction from the very beginning. If you've ever wondered how well you really know the people closest to you, you need to hear what happened next. David and I had what everyone called the perfect marriage. 15 years of Sunday morning coffee, anniversary dinners, and quiet evenings in our riverside home. He was an accountant, methodical and careful about everything. We'd decided years ago not to have children. David had even gotten a vasectomy 5 years earlier, after we'd both agreed our careers and each other were enough. We were content with our simple, predictable life. When David collapsed at his office last Tuesday, the doctors said it was a massive heart attack. Quick and painless, they assured me. At 45, he was gone before the paramedics even arrived. The funeral was small, just family and a few close friends. Monica, my younger sister, cried harder than anyone. She'd always been dramatic, but losing David seemed to hit her especially hard. "He was like the brother I never had," she sobbed, clinging to me as we watched them lower his casket into the ground. I should have noticed something was wrong then. Monica had never been particularly close to David. In fact, she'd always seemed a little jealous of our marriage, our stability, our happiness. 3 days after the funeral, I was going through David's things when I found the key. It was in his old red toolbox, wrapped in tissue paper, with that note in his careful handwriting. I'd never seen the key before, and David had never mentioned any farmhouse. As I unfolded the note more carefully, I noticed something else written in smaller text at the bottom. "Only if something happens to me. If you're reading this, it means Monica succeeded. The farmhouse has everything you need to stop her from hurting you too. Trust no one else." That same evening, Monica knocked on my door. She looked different, nervous, fidgety, like she was working up the courage to say something terrible. "Sarah, we need to talk," she said, settling into David's favourite chair. "There's something you need to know about David and me." My stomach dropped. "What about David and you?" Monica took a shaky breath and handed me the sealed envelope. "David wrote this for you. He was planning to leave, Sarah. He said he'd found someone else." She paused, her hand moving to her stomach. "Someone who could give him what you couldn't. I'm pregnant, Sarah, and David is the father." I stared at the envelope, then at Monica. "That's impossible. David had a vasectomy 5 years ago after we decided not to have children." Monica's eyes flickered with something I couldn't identify. He told me he had it reversed last year. He said he wanted a fresh start, a real family." The room started spinning. I gripped the arm of the couch, trying to process what she'd just said. "That's impossible," I whispered. "David approached me about 6 months ago," Monica said, her voice carefully controlled. "He said he'd been thinking about leaving you, that he wanted children, but you'd convinced him not to have them. He asked if I thought he was making the right choice." She paused, letting the lie sink in. One thing led to another. "I tried to talk him out of it, Sarah. I really did. But he said he'd already made up his mind. The pregnancy, it just complicated everything." I stared at my sister, this person I'd known my entire life, and felt something inside me break, not just my heart, but something deeper. Trust, maybe. The foundation of everything I thought I knew about my life. "Get out," I said quietly. "Sarah, please." "Get out!" I screamed, and Monica fled. I sat alone in my house that night, holding the mysterious key and thinking about David's note. A farmhouse he'd never mentioned, a place he'd forbidden me to visit, and now Monica's revelation about their affair. Maybe the farmhouse was where they met. Maybe that's where David had planned to take Monica and their child, leaving me behind with nothing but 15 years of lies. By morning, I'd made my decision. I was going to find that farmhouse. I drove for 2 hours into the countryside, following an address I'd found scribbled on a piece of paper in David's wallet. The landscape grew more isolated with each mile. Rolling hills, abandoned barns, and farmhouses that looked like they hadn't been occupied in decades. Finally, I found it. A weathered white farmhouse at the end of a long dirt road, surrounded by overgrown fields and dead trees. It looked like something from a horror movie, with boarded windows and a sagging front porch. The key fit perfectly in the front door. The inside of the farmhouse was dark and musty, like it had been closed up for years. Dust particles danced in the sunlight, streaming through cracks in the boarded windows. But as my eyes adjusted, I realized the house wasn't abandoned at all. Someone had been living here, recently. There was a small kitchen with fresh groceries on the counter, a living room with a television and comfortable furniture, and on the coffee table a stack of medical files with David's name on them. I opened the first file with trembling hands. It was a psychiatric evaluation dated just 3 months ago, but something was wrong. The doctor's signature looked traced, and there were 2 different ink colours used throughout the document. As I looked closer, I found the original evaluation underneath. Completely different conclusions. Patient shows no signs of mental illness. Appears to be under significant stress due to external threats. Recommend investigating patient's claims of being stalked. Someone had forged the top evaluation. In the margins, I found notes in Monica's handwriting. Need stronger language about paranoia and add violence potential. The next file was even worse. A restraining order application that David had never filed, requesting protection from Monica Chen, who has been stalking and threatening patient and his wife. But it was the photographs that truly froze me, hundreds of them pinned to the walls of what must have been David's makeshift office. Photos of Monica watching our house from across the street, Monica following me to the grocery store, Monica sitting in her car outside David's office, building. And then I saw the timeline David had created on the wall, dates and events going back 2 years. March 15th, Monica asks unusual questions about our financial accounts. My hands started shaking. I remembered that conversation. Monica had seemed so concerned about our financial security. June 3rd, Monica offers to help with David's medication after his checkup. The medication. Monica had insisted on organising David's pills, said she wanted to help during his stressful time. August 12th, David becomes ill after dinner at Monica's house. That dinner. David had been so sick afterward we'd thought it was food poisoning. August 28th, noticed unfamiliar man in dark SUV parked outside office. Same man seen near our house twice this week. September 15th, Monica mentions friend who could help with David's situation. Describes him as someone who handles problems quietly. September 20th, Monica suggests David needs specialised care for his stress. October 3rd, dark SUV man Rick follows me to grocery store, license plate XKJ 4829. My hands shook as I read entry after entry, documenting Monica's increasingly strange behaviour. David hadn't been having an affair. He'd been investigating my sister. In the bedroom, I found David's journal. The final entry was dated the day before he died. Sarah still doesn't believe me about Monica. I can't blame her. Monica is careful, manipulative. She's convinced everyone that I'm the one losing my mind. But I have proof now. The breakthrough came 6 weeks ago when I started feeling sick only after family dinners or when Monica visited with her helpful herbal supplements. I began secretly switching our drinks when she wasn't looking, pretending to take her supplements while actually disposing of them. Within days of avoiding Monica's help, my symptoms improved dramatically. For 5 weeks, I was getting stronger, gathering evidence, building my case. But 3 days ago, Monica surprised me at the office with coffee and insisted we drink it together to celebrate my recovery. She watched me drink every drop. I couldn't refuse without blowing my cover. That massive dose of digitalis was meant to finish me off quickly. She was getting impatient. I knew I had maybe 48 hours before my heart gave out completely. That's why I had to get this evidence to Sarah before it was too late. I started wearing the small recording device Monica had ironically given me for safety, not knowing I'd modified it to actually work. I pretended to continue declining while secretly regaining my strength. The hardest part was acting confused and paranoid while staying sharp enough to gather evidence. I had my blood tested privately. The results confirmed digitalis poisoning from foxglove extract, the same plant Monica had been growing in her garden and praising as a natural heart remedy. Brilliant, really. The symptoms mimic natural heart disease perfectly. By the time doctors noticed the digitalis in my system, it would look like I was self-medicating with herbal remedies, the perfect cover for murder. I tried going to Detective Martinez 2 weeks ago, but Monica had been building her case against me for months. She'd been calling them regularly, expressing concern about my mental state, showing them evidence of my decline. By the time I went to them, they already saw me as the unstable one. She told them I was having paranoid delusions, showed them evidence of my mental decline, emails I never sent, appointments I never made. She's been building a case that I'm losing my mind while she's been the concerned sister-in-law trying to help. The police think I'm the dangerous one now. That's why I had to disappear, had to gather irrefutable proof before she kills me and moves on to Sarah. I dropped the journal, my entire body shaking. Monica hadn't been David's lover. She'd been his killer. The journal continued. I've moved to the farmhouse to protect Sarah and gather evidence. If something happens to me, everything Monica needs to inherit is in the safe behind the family photo. The combination is Sarah's birthday. I found the safe exactly where David said it would be. Inside were bank statements showing that Monica had been slowly draining David's accounts, medical records proving the digitalis poisoning, and recorded phone calls of Monica planning with someone named Rick to speed up David's decline. But the most chilling discovery was a photocopy of a handwritten plan in Monica's distinctive writing. A note in David's handwriting was attached. Monica dropped her planner when rushing out after poisoning my coffee 3 days ago. She was so focused on watching me drink it that she didn't notice. Found these pages torn out and crumpled in our kitchen trash after she left. She must have been reviewing her timeline and panicked when she realized she'd brought the evidence with her. The plan read, Phase 1, eliminate David. Phase 2, comfort grieving sister. Phase 3, claim pregnancy to explain sudden wealth. Phase 4, convince grieving Sarah to change life insurance beneficiary to help with baby expenses. Phase 5, Sarah has accident, inherits as sole beneficiary and guardian of unborn child. Among the other papers was a half-completed life insurance beneficiary change form with my forged signature, naming Monica as primary beneficiary in case of tragic accident during pregnancy complications. David had intercepted it before Monica could submit it. A sticky note in his handwriting read, "She's getting bold. This was in our mailbox yesterday." I sat on the dusty floor of that farmhouse, surrounded by evidence of my husband's final months, and finally let myself cry. Not the polite, controlled tears I'd shed at the funeral, but raw, ugly sobs of grief and rage and guilt. David had died protecting me, and I'd spent days hating him for betraying me. He'd been alone in this terrible place, fighting for both our lives, while I'd been at home folding his clothes and planning what to do with his belongings. I was so absorbed in my grief that I didn't hear the car approaching until it was too late. Through the window I saw Monica's silver Honda pulling up the dirt road. She'd followed me. I quickly gathered the most damning evidence and hid it in my purse, then pretended to be looking through the kitchen cabinets when Monica walked in. "I figured you'd end up here eventually," she said, her voice completely different from the tearful, remorseful tone she'd used at my house. "I've been watching you since the funeral, Sarah, following you, waiting for you to find David's little hideaway. I knew he'd leave you clues. He was always so predictable that way." She pulled out her phone, showing me a tracking app. "Your car, sweetie. I installed it 2 weeks ago when I borrowed your keys after David's funeral. I needed to make sure you weren't getting too close to the truth. But David was clever. He disabled your car's GPS system months ago and only reactivated it after he died. He wanted you to find this place, but only after he was gone. Amazing what people don't notice when they trust you completely." This Monica was cold, calculating. "So this is where David brought you," I said, testing her reaction. Monica laughed. "David never brought me anywhere, Sarah. This is where he ran to hide when he realized what I was doing to him." The mask was completely off now. No more pretending to be the grieving sister-in-law. "You killed him," I said. Monica's expression didn't change. "Prove it." I pulled out David's journal, keeping my voice steady. "He documented everything, Monica. Every suspicious dinner, every time you offered to help with his medication. David was sick and paranoid. No one will believe the ravings of a mentally ill man." "Maybe not his journal alone," I said, placing my phone on the dusty table. "But what about the recordings he made?" I played a snippet, Monica's voice clearly discussing adjusting the timeline with someone named Rick. Monica's confident mask cracked slightly. "Where did you get that?" "David was smarter than you gave him credit for. He's been recording everything for months, including our conversation right now." I gestured to my phone, which had been recording since she walked in. Monica's face went white, then twisted with rage. "You think you're so clever, don't you? Perfect Sarah, always one step ahead." Her voice turned venomous. "You want to know the truth? Fine. I'm tired of pretending to grieve for that pathetic excuse of a man." Monica stared at the recording device, her carefully constructed facade cracking. For 2 years, she'd been the puppet master, controlling every variable. But now, surrounded by David's evidence, facing the recordings of her own voice, she realized her perfect plan was crumbling. "You don't understand the pressure I was under," she said, her voice breaking. "Everyone always comparing me to perfect Sarah. I just wanted—" She stopped, realizing she was still confessing, but the dam had broken. The need to justify herself, to be understood, overrode her caution. "You want to know the truth, Sarah? I've hated you since we were children. Perfect Sarah, with her perfect grades, perfect husband, perfect little life. Do you know what it's like growing up in the shadow of someone everyone thinks is better than you? Mum used to say, 'Why can't you be more like Sarah?' Dad would compare my boyfriends to David. Even at family dinners, it was always about your achievements, your happiness, your wonderful marriage. David was weak, boring, content with his little suburban life. But his life insurance policy, that's going to change everything. Finally, I'll have what you had, and you'll have nothing." "Wait," I said, pieces clicking together. "You just told me David approached you, that it just happened. But this plan shows you've been plotting for 2 years. Which is it, Monica?" Monica's mask slipped completely. "You always were too smart for your own good, Sarah. Fine. There was no affair. David never touched me. The whole story was just phase 3. Create a believable reason for sudden wealth and make you think he betrayed you first." "Us?" Monica smiled that cold smile again. "You're going to have an accident, Sarah. Grief-stricken widow, overwhelmed by loss, drives off the road on her way home from her husband's secret hideaway. Very tragic, very believable." That's when I realised Monica wasn't alone. A man emerged from the shadows of the hallway, tall, muscular, with dead eyes that told me he'd done this kind of work before. "This is Rick," Monica said casually. "He's been helping me with the more physical aspects of my plan." Rick moved toward me, but I was ready. I'd palmed David's letter opener from his desk while Monica was talking. "You made one mistake, Monica," I said, backing toward the kitchen. "David recorded everything, every phone call, every plan, every detail of how you poisoned him." Monica's confident expression faltered. "That's impossible. I checked his house, his office. But you never found this place until today." I pulled out my phone, which had been recording our entire conversation. "And you just confessed to murder." What happened next was chaos. Rick moved toward me with the confidence of someone who'd done this before. But I'd noticed something while Monica was talking. He kept favouring his left leg, probably an old injury. I grabbed David's heavy brass desk lamp and pretended to stumble backward in fear. When Rick lunged forward to grab me, I swung the lamp up hard, catching him under the chin. The impact sent him staggering backward into the wall. It wasn't enough to stop him permanently, but it bought me precious seconds. Rick shook his head, blood streaming from his mouth, his eyes now filled with rage instead of cold calculation. I sprinted for the back door, Monica's screams echoing behind me. "Don't let her get away! She has everything!" The overgrown fields grabbed at my clothes, thorns tearing at my skin. Behind me, I could hear Rick crashing through the brush, cursing. My car seemed impossibly far away. My lungs burned as I stumbled over hidden roots and rocks. Almost there. Almost there. Rick's footsteps were getting closer. I could hear his laboured breathing just behind me. I reached my car and fumbled with the keys, my hands shaking so badly I could barely get them in the ignition. I could hear them chasing me, but I had a head start and 15 years of morning jogs on my side. I reached my car, locked the doors and called 911 while speeding down the dirt road. "I need police at the old Whitman farmhouse on Route 47, I gasped into the phone. "My sister just tried to kill me, and I have evidence she murdered my husband." The police found Monica and Rick still at the farmhouse destroying evidence, but it was too late. I'd already given the officers copies of David's files, the recorded confession, and the timeline of Monica's stalking behaviour. The autopsy they performed on David's body confirmed everything. Digitalis poisoning, administered over several months. Monica had been slowly killing my husband while pretending to comfort me through his illness. During the trial, more details emerged. Monica had been planning this for over 2 years, ever since she'd learned about David's life insurance policy. She'd researched untraceable poisons, hired Rick through dark web connections, and carefully documented my daily routines to plan my accident. The pregnancy was fake, of course, just another layer of manipulation to explain her sudden wealth and gain my sympathy. Monica was sentenced to life in prison for first-degree murder. Rick got 25 years for conspiracy and attempted murder. I still live in the house David and I shared, but everything is different now. I've learned to trust my instincts, to question things that seem too convenient, too perfect. The farmhouse has been torn down. I couldn't bear the thought of that place existing, holding all those dark secrets. But I kept David's journal, not as a reminder of the horror, but as proof of his love. Even when everyone thought he was losing his mind, even when I doubted him, he was protecting me. Monica writes to me from prison sometimes, letters full of justifications and excuses, claiming she did it all for us, for our family's future. I burn them without reading past the first line. Some people ask me how I didn't see the signs, how I could have been so blind to Monica's true nature. But that's the thing about people who want to destroy you. They're often the ones standing closest, offering comfort while they sharpen the knife. David tried to warn me with that note, that key, that forbidden farmhouse. He knew that if something happened to him, I'd eventually find my way there. He knew I'd need to see the truth with my own eyes to believe it. My name is Sarah Chen. I'm not the naive wife I used to be, the one who trusted without question and believed the best in everyone. I'm a woman who learned that sometimes the people who hug you at funerals are the same ones who put you there. And if you're listening to this story and something feels wrong in your own life, if someone close to you is acting just a little too helpful, a little too concerned, trust that instinct. Because the most dangerous predators are often the ones who know exactly how to make you feel safe. The truth has a way of surfacing even when it's buried in the most forbidden places. And when it does, you'll have to decide, will you let it destroy you, or will you use it to reclaim your life? I chose to fight back, and I'm still here to tell the story. That forbidden farmhouse may be gone, but the lesson it taught me remains. Never ignore the warnings of someone who loves you, even when they seem impossible to believe. Because sometimes the most unbelievable truths are the ones that save your life.